the Shiites. Muslims into Shiite and Sunni Muslims. And so the founder of Islam, Muhammad, he died in the year 732. Now, about a generation later, around the 760s, 750s, Muhammad, the followers of Muhammad, the Muslim community, will then begin to establish a leadership element. And there were two different views regarding what would allow for a legitimate leader. One group insisted that in order for the leader of the Islamic community to be legitimate, that person must be able to trace their family lineage directly back to Muhammad. There had to be a family link from the leader back to Muhammad. And only that kind of connection would establish the legitimacy of that ruler. Now, others believe that whoever the leading elements within the Islamic community believed simply would be the best leader. That collective view that this person would be the best leader is what would establish their legitimacy. And these two perspectives regarding the legitimacy of the leader of the Islamic community did not reconcile. So what happens then is you have a permanent split. The Shiite Muslims originate as those who insisted that the legitimate leader must be able to trace a family link directly back to Muhammad. Sunni Muslims were those who believed that the legitimacy was established by the collective wisdom of the leading elements of the Islamic community. And if they decided this person would be an effective leader, that would be the basis of their legitimacy. So today, again, you still have Shiite Muslims and Sunni Muslims. The majority of Muslims in the world are Sunni. But again, there are still significant populations of Shiite Muslims living throughout the world. Now, Christianity, for the first 1,000 years, Christianity is going to remain singular. That for the first 1,000 years of the history of Christianity, to simply refer to yourself as a Christian was sufficient. As you should know today, that is no longer the case, because there are a lot of different types of Christians. Okay? And so let's take a look at the first split within Christianity. The first split is going to be into Catholics, who again are Christians, as well as those who are Eastern Orthodox Christians. Now, to understand what sets the stage for this split, we need to go back and look at the early structure, the structure of the Christian church in that period of its first 1,000 years. The Christian community in the Mediterranean world during the first 1,000 years of Christianity, they were governed by the Council of Bishops. And with this Council of Bishops, you had the leading bishops established in the most prominent cities. And then there would be an area around those prominent cities where you have that bishop being the governing authority as well as the spiritual authority. So originally you had the Bishop of Rome. You have the Bishop of Constantinople / Istanbul. You have you have the Bishop of Rome, the Bishop of Constantinople, the Bishop of Antioch, the Bishop of Damascus, the Bishop of Jerusalem, and the Bishop of Alexandria. And so for most of the careers of these individual bishops, they simply stayed focused on the areas that they immediately governed. If there was some kind of religious dispute, some kind of doctrinal dispute regarding Christian ritual, Christian prayer, Christian doctrine, if it reached to a certain level that where it might affect the entire Christian community, that's when they would convene the Council of Bishops. And the bishops would meet in one location, and then people who would then hold the different sides of the dispute would present their arguments to the council. And after the council heard the arguments, then they would act as a court. They would weigh the arguments, debate the arguments among themselves after they had been presented, and they would make a decision. Now, in this period of early Christianity, the Council of Bishops was still subservient to the emperor. Okay? The emperor who at this time resided in Constantinople. So what the Council of Bishops would do is once they reached a verdict, once they made a decision regarding the dispute, they would inform the emperor of their decision, and then the emperor would issue an edict announcing to the Christian community that this is now the way it works. And again, one of the potential problems that could occur from this kind of scenario is that you've got an even number of bishops, which then theoretically means a decision could reach a tie. And so, in the event of a tie, the Council of Bishops incorporated another early Christian tradition. And once formalized, it becomes known as the doctrine of Petrine supremacy. And Petrine Petrine refers to Peter, as in St. Peter, one of the original apostles of Jesus Christ. Now again, what will emerge as a prevalent Christian tradition, belief, is that Peter, one of the original 12 apostles, the one apostle who is believed to have been the closest to Jesus Christ himself, will actually travel from the Eastern Mediterranean to Rome itself, to the city of Rome. And once Peter is in the city of Rome, he will become the first bishop of Rome. And the way that the succeeding bishops are appointed, they inherit the authority of the previous bishop of Rome. So that meant the bishops of Rome traced their authority back to Peter himself, one of the original 12 apostles, the one apostle believed to have been the actually closest to Jesus Christ himself. And so, in the event of a tie, the Council of Bishops were willing then to concede, because of this doctrine of Petrine supremacy, that the Bishop of Rome would be considered the first among equals. And to break the tie, the Council of Bishops would simply defer to the Bishop of Rome. Whatever position the Bishop of Rome took would then be the decision reached by the council. But again, this would only be in the limited circumstances of a doctrinal dispute heard by the Council of Bishops that resulted in a tie. Now, over time, what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of economic and political dislocation. And as a result, regular communication, regular interaction between the Bishop of Rome and the others will begin to fall apart. And this will, as a result, leave the Bishop of Rome more isolated. I'll present you a map shortly. I should have had that map already viewable. The Eastern Mediterranean is the part of the Mediterranean world in this time period where you had the largest concentration of people and the largest concentration of wealth. The cities were where you had the overwhelming majority of the Council of Bishops were in the Eastern Mediterranean. Constantinople, Antioch, Damascus, Jerusalem, Alexandria. The only urban area of significance in the entire Western Mediterranean was the city of Rome. And the population in the West was much smaller, overwhelmingly rural, and much more scattered. And so, as a result of this kind of separation and this kind of isolated environment that the Bishop of Rome finds himself in, where he cannot as easily communicate with the bishops in the East or even the Bishop of Constantinople, the Bishop of Rome will have to take on more responsibility for the area in which he governs. And as a result, in the West, the Bishop of Rome is going to become much more significant. Now, this period of dislocation and instability is going to last for about 300 years. But eventually, things settle down. And the environment returns where there could be much more direct communication between Rome and the eastern half of the Mediterranean world. And what happens then is a doctrinal dispute emerges. And as the Council of Bishops tries to resolve this doctrinal dispute, the Bishop of Rome at this point is far more accustomed to having more influence because of his unique experience in the West. When the other bishops disagreed, he will assert the doctrine of Petrine supremacy, even though there wasn't a tie. And as this conflict then intensifies, the emperor gets involved, and the emperor in Constantinople will simply tell the Bishop of Constantinople that he is to excommunicate the Bishop of Rome, which then to excommunicate is to strip away a person's religious authority, if they are in a position of authority, or strip away their religious protections. And so the Bishop of Constantinople follows through on the emperor's order. He excommunicates the Bishop of Rome, and then in response, the Bishop of Rome excommunicated the Bishop of Constantinople and the other bishops on the council. And as a result, that creates a split within the Christian world. And the Christians in the West, who then retain the acknowledgement that the Bishop of Rome is supreme, will become Catholics. And again, when you look at the word Catholic, it has a history outside of the name of a significant religious group. If you just look up the word Catholic in lowercase, it means the one, the universal. And so by taking the word Catholic and applying it to those Christians in the Western Mediterranean world, then what they are asserting is that the Bishop of Rome is the one, the universal leader of the Christian community. Whereas in the East, of course, Christians in the Eastern Mediterranean rejected that view. They remained Christians just like they had always been, and they retained the consular system that had always been in place. And again, today you may hear Eastern Orthodox Christians referred to as Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox. They're all the same. That's all the same. Okay? And again, they're all on the eastern end of the Mediterranean world. Okay? And so this split occurs formally in the year 1054. Now, just to kind of finish out the story, in 1964, there was a formal reconciliation between the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church. And again, all was forgiven. 1964. So from 1054 to 1964, you had this split. Again, you still have the split in terms of their perspectives, their practices, their traditions. But again, there's that element of conflict that has been dismissed. Okay. Now, what's far more relevant to our course is a split that occurs about 500 years after this initial split. And this second split within Christianity will be exclusively in the Western Mediterranean, Europe. And again, what will happen is branching out from Catholicism will be Protestantism. And since that is going to be a much more substantial discussion, let's go ahead and just pick up with that in the next video for this topic.